Let's go. Welcome to the Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. No one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us, no one can rock us. We are the warriors, no one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us, no one can rock us. We are the warriors.
The double knockout.
Where do you find this stuff?
If I told you, then everyone would have a show on YouTube that costs absolutely nothing to produce.
Okay.
So anyway, welcome to Cage Nation TV. Of course, I am your elected official, Albert Cameron. Drew Shannon with us as always.
Always.
Always with us.
Where am I going?
Where are you going?
Except for that 1 week.
Yeah.
That was badly burned.
Yeah.
We won't go into that.
No, we won't.
Coming up this week on Cage Nation TV, well, last week we weren't sure what we're doing. This week, you were inspired to write an episode.
I was.
All right.
This week we got the newsreel as always.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're gonna we're gonna call this the social responsibility episode.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about the 5 worst traits that an MMA fan could have to make them unbearable to be around. And then, of course, we are actually foregoing the Cameron perspective this week.
Again.
We're going to talk about another hot topic. And that hot topic, especially getting into, fight season coming up. I don't want to say fight season, but a lot of events are coming up.
A lot of events.
Yeah. So you and I are going to discuss what the proper etiquette for being in an event is going to be.
That's the best thing about MMA. There is no season. It's non-stop, 24/7. It just goes, and there's no season whatsoever. Different leagues, different promotions,
Different pay-per-views that may or may not be promoted on professional wrestling. Anyways.
It's all year long, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. So,
speaking of professional wrestling, I figured you were going to make a comment about the shirt.
After I realized that I don't have the clap magic, I'm not even bothering.
I'm not even going to comment on that last comment. I actually have the CM Punk shirt underneath.
Oh, good.
But because Penn State football is starting up this weekend, I had to represent with the blue and white, even though it is my Quick Rock 105.9 shirt.
Hey, those colors don't run. Just saying.
No. Well, in the wash.
Yeah, in the wash. Coming up, ladies and gentlemen, the newsreel. We're going to get into the 5 worst traits an MMA fan could have, and then we're going to have the hot topic. All that and more coming up right here on Cage Nation TV.
Don't you run.
It's time for another edition of Cage Nation TV Newsreel, spanning the globe to bring you the latest news in MMA.
Complete Devastation MMA is giving us one more thing to be thankful for this Thanksgiving season. CD MMA matchmaker Ryan Blunt is hard at work to make the promotion's return to Altoona as big as possible. This will be the first time that Complete Devastation MMA will be promoting with the new owner, and they're looking to make a huge impression. While fight cards are subject to change, the November 16th bout is looking to bring in the best fighters that Altoona and the surrounding areas can come up with. Tentatively, Brett Showtime Schoenfeld, Charlie the Madman Gathers, Paul P. Mac McAleer, Paul the Lionheart Riggleman, Jason Royer, and many more are scheduled to fight. CD MMA 9 will be held November 16th at the Jaffa Mosque in Altoona. The UFC has added a women's bout between Rossi Sexton and Jessica Andrade to the October 26 Fight Night 30 card in Manchester, England. Both are 0-1 in the UFC, with Sexton coming off a decision loss to Alexis Davis at UFC 161 in June, and Andrade was stopped by Liz Carmouche at the Fox 8 card this past July. Former WEC bantamweight champion Miguel Torres has been arrested for possession of marijuana. The former king of the WEC 135 division was arrested recently after being caught with an undisclosed amount of marijuana. Torres has posted $1,500 bail and will stand trial. Torres has not fought since World Series of Fighting 1 in November. Talk about letting your career go up in smoke. Josh Barnett is surely the war master, but he's becoming the war of the words master. Josh Barnett and former Bellator welterweight Funky Ben Askren have taken to Twitter to trade shots. After a recent promotional piece on Barnett's return to the UFC aired, Askren made remarks about how it wasn't mentioned that Barnett was stripped of the UFC heavyweight crown after testing positive for steroids. Barnett responded with a crack about how Askren was a nobody. After several stabs back and forth, Barnett ended the exchange with some heated profanities. Not a great way to be welcomed into the biggest MMA promotion on the planet. Speaking of Ben Askren, Dana White recently went on record to speak of Ben Askren and if a deal could be struck. Dana White, having no love lost for Bellator president Bjorn Rebney, said, quote, "Bjorn Rebney's a scumbag." The guy says, "Yeah, we're going to let him go. Let's just part ways." You ain't parting ways with him. He's got a matching right and all that bullshit. This guy is a typical boxing piece of shit. Everybody knows the guy's a scumbag. We'll see what happens with Ben. First they say they're going to let him go. They're not going to let him go. They'll probably end up suing him too and make him sit out and lose a bunch of money and him in a deal. Bad guys, they're bad guys. End quote. In a related story, Lifebuoy will become the new sponsor of the UFC if someone's man enough to wash Dana's mouth out with it.
Since the dawn of furniture, there has been only one way to keep an infant from rolling off a couch or chair, and that is unsafely cramming cushions against the piece of furniture and hoping the baby doesn't work him or herself under them. Until now. Introducing the Zoster. The Zoster is a revolutionary infant safety product that easily wraps around a cushion to keep your baby from rolling off a couch or chair. The Zoster is made with a fleece material complete with a waterproof underneath to keep various liquids away from your upholstery. The Zoster is currently available in solid colors and pattern designs. You can order the Zoster online today at thezoster.com.
Welcome back to Cage Nation TV. What we're going to talk about right now is, well, something you were inspired by.
We're getting ready to come into a long strain of really good events.
Right.
And I'm sure your dad told you, I know my parents told me that everywhere you go there's going to be a guy, a person, because we're equal opportunity persons who just, you just want to just kind of like smack them around because they're not doing it right. They're socially inept.
I've been told that like opinions are like a-holes, everyone's got one and they all stink.
Right. So we're going to talk about, like what are the 5 worst traits that an MMA fan could have to make everybody around them hate them. I mean, and 2 of those does not include being Albert Cameron or being Drew Shannon.
Right.
These are 5 independent things that you could have possess and make people hate you.
Now note, if you have one of these traits, do something about it, okay?
Right. I mean, and it's not to say that, we're the end-all be-all. We're just saying, like, we know what... We're socially adept as opposed to being socially inept. And in MMA events, like, we're all there to watch great fights. Athletes are training hard, and we're there to enjoy the fruits of their labor.
All right. The first thing that, well, makes the worst MMA fan, the statement, "I train MMA, bro."
Do you know how many legitimate fighters we know who have never said that whatsoever?
Right.
I mean, God, there's so many. Paul McAleer, Brett Schoenfeld, Charlie Gathers, Paul Riggleman, anyone who's ever fought for Gladiators of the Cage, anyone who's ever...
Chris Dempsey.
Lewis Rumsey,
all these...
Jessica I, UFC fighter, has never ever said that.
Jessica Richmond.
Right.
The list goes on and on.
If you need to preface what you're a challenge to someone with, "I train MMA, bro," I have a hard time believing that you're really training all that much or you're really that in depth. Because if you trained MMA and you have to talk about it on the streets, you're not doing it in a cage. And if you're not doing it in a cage, then you're really not competing.
It's just about as bad as the 6 worst sentences, the 6 worst words that anyone could ever possibly say.
You mean...
"Do you know who I am?"
That has never gotten anywhere.
Never use that. That is, pardon my French, a dick move.
Right. Well, saying "I train MMA, bro" is the same thing. And like, in casual conversation, "Hey Drew, guess what?
What?
I train MMA."
Do you?
How about that?
That's awesome. When did you start that?
I went to my favorite gym in the area and I train MMA.
Well, that's fantastic. How can I train MMA? And then the conversation.
Right. We're in a bar. "I train MMA, bro." And then I get punched in the face because I deserve it.
Right.
Right.
All right.
So,
The next one up is fighter bashing. Now, if you're in the cage and two fighters are fighting, bashing is fine because that is your job, to bash the other guy in.
sitting in your living room on the internet saying about how everyone sucks is not acceptable. To the guy, I mean, there are guys who are actually fighting, you know, like athletes. The worst guy in the Pittsburgh Steelers is still better than anyone in your, like, you know, backyard flag football league. You know, like, the worst Pittsburgh Pirate, and I know that's really saying a lot because the Pirates are doing great this year, but the worst Pittsburgh Pirate is still better than anyone on your Little League team. Anyone who's ever fought in the UFC or Strikeforce or Pride or Affliction or Elite XC is still better than anyone you really know because they've made the grand stage. They've put in the hard work. They've gotten to the top. And to sit around and be like, oh, well, Phil Baroni sucks. Tell Phil Baroni that to his face, and I'll guarantee I can tell you what happens. You're going to start spitting teeth.
Now, granted, opinions vary, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
Right.
I have to say that.
Right. Well, there's a difference between saying Phil Baroni sucks and saying Phil Baroni could work on his kickboxing. There's a difference. There's constructive criticism, and then there's this being a D-bag.
Right.
And, you know, like, if someone would say, hey, Takanori Gomi needs to work on his jiu-jitsu after seeing the Kenny Florian fight, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. Takanori Gomi sucks. Well, why? Well, because he sucks. Why? You know, like, there's an intelligent exchange of ideas that needs to happen here in order to be an intelligent human being and then just be a knuckle dragger.
Also, if you're going to say somebody sucks, have something to back up what you're talking about. I mean, if you're gonna just go flat out and say that guy sucks, well, why does he suck?
Right. Well, like, Albert Cameron doesn't report accurately in the news. Well, why is that? Because Quentin Rampage Jackson never caused a premature, you know, miscarriage. Okay, well, that's fact, and thank you for watching. You know, like, those are the sort of things that.
Are you still on that?
I'm just saying.
That was the last show we did. I mean, come on, that was.
It still kind of checks me just a little bit, but you know what? Albert Cameron doesn't suck.
All right. Booing during ground exchanges.
This one really isn't as relevant anymore as it used to be, maybe even 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
But the problem we had was, a lot of folks were jumping on MMA because it looks like, you know, boxing with no rules. Mm-hmm. Guys just getting wantonly punched in the face. And that's exciting to watch. Knockouts are very, very exciting to watch, but so are submissions.
Right.
Like, you know, to watch a guy tap out, I mean, I saw Rico Rodriguez. I saw Tim Sylvia refuse to tap out in an arm bar, and then I watched his arm break in 2 places. Like, you know, that actually happened.
Right.
In order for Tim Sylvia to get in that spot, he had to be involved in a ground exchange. And ground exchanges weren't always popular because people didn't understand. Like, whenever we're sitting cage side, and we're watching a good jiu-jitsu exchange.
Okay.
I'm always very, very careful to point out, okay, this is what's happening, this is what needs to happen, this is what you're watching for. Because our job as commentators is to say, this is what you're seeing, and try to analyze it for them. Mm. And a lot of the time, the fans in the crowd don't have that benefit of a commentator being right in their ear.
Right.
However, coming into a sport and just booing ground exchanges because it's not, like, you know, exciting knockout kind of stuff, it's just ignorant.
Right.
It really is. I mean, there's a lot of great jiu-jitsu guys. Of course, the whole sport was founded by Hoist Gracie. There's a lot of guys who train at Ding and Broomba, Team Titan Fitness, Central PA Mixed Martial Arts, who are very, very good at the ground game. So to boo them is really just being insulting and not knowing why.
All right. Using the statement, the UFC is a monopoly. We're going to assume that is an inaccurate statement. In fact, it pretty much is an inaccurate statement.
Monopoly?
If they were a monopoly, you wouldn't have Invicta, you wouldn't have Bellator, you wouldn't have XFE, you wouldn't have Gladiators of the Cage, you wouldn't have Complete Devastation MMA, you wouldn't have all the other organizations that are out there. They would all be owned by the UFC, wouldn't they? That is what is called a monopoly. I'm out!
The only time the UFC is ever going to be a monopoly is when Parker Brothers puts Dana White on their freaking game board. That is it. I'm tired of talking about it, so let's just take the UFC's monopoly as a blanket statement and just make it like anyone who really hates the UFC. 1, the UFC did all the hard work by bringing MMA to us, okay? UFC fought to get on pay-per-view, UFC fought to get on cable, and UFC is bringing us consistently free fights with top-tier talent.
I'm back!
He's back, okay? A monopoly is an unfair business practice which prevents any other entity from coming in and competing. If the UFC are a monopoly, they'd own cage manufacturers. They'd own major cable outlets. They would own the guys who make gloves, and they would use those outlets to prevent other people from competing. That would make them a monopoly. Drew, is the UFC doing that?
No.
So what does that mean?
They're not a monopoly.
Exactly. So to hate on the UFC because you don't like Uncle Dana, you don't like the business practices, the fact of the matter is Uncle Dana is taking guys who are fighting on smaller shows and they're paying them more than they were getting paid on those smaller shows to fight on the UFC because these guys are proving themselves. Uncle Dana isn't screwing anybody. He just isn't. I mean, he's looking to make his money because he's a businessman. That's what business people do.
That's right.
I feel better.
Good.
Okay.
I had to go get my water. That's why I walked off set. I wasn't really mad, but anyways. Finally, closed-minded arguers. Those pretty much those who will not listen to your opinion, but will loudly state theirs. Correct?
I'm looking at you, Sherdog.com, and your forums, and the UG. I'm looking at you guys. I can sit and I can argue with anybody really, and as long as you back it up, I don't care. You know, if you can provide evidence, provide a valid agreement, even if I'm right and you're wrong, or you're wrong and I'm right, you're right and I'm wrong. You know, it's the intelligent exchange of ideas. Just say, nope, Dana White sucks. Nope, Dana White sucks. Bjorn Rebney's great. Dana White sucks. That's just unintelligent. That's just simple-minded stuff. That is just being basic.
Oh.
And I don't like it. I mean, I'll sit and I'll talk MMA with anybody. Like, you know, I love getting on the phone and be like, hey, do you remember when this fight happened? Because, you know, I got a lot of MMA history up in my shiny noggin here. You know, like, and I'll talk MMA with anyone. But to be like, no, he sucks. I don't like it.
All right. Let's take a look what Dana White said about Bjorn Rebney, which we heard in the newsreel.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Heavily edited portion of the newsreel.
Right. Ben Askren, an Olympic wrestler, okay, comes to Bellator, wins the welterweight tournament, defends the belt at least 4 times, and then Bellator's like, yeah, we're just gonna let him go. You know, I think Ben Askren's protected by his own contract as well to have to rematch guarantees and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And Bjorn Rebney really just isn't getting into it. So for Dana White to call someone a scumbag, whatever, he really hasn't called out any other promoter. I mean, he's called Strikeforce, he's called a Strike Farce, he's buried Affliction, but Dana White has always not really come out and call out really anybody that I am aware of. Not saying he hasn't done it, I'm not aware of it. But to come out and say Bjorn Rebney's a scumbag, I mean, the guy might be a scumbag. He might be.
So they wouldn't fall into the category of number 5? Dana White wouldn't at this point, in your opinion?
No, I mean, because he really said that with an intelligent argument behind it. Okay. That, you know, he felt what Bjorn Rebney was doing with Ben Askren's contract was scumbagish.
With an intelligent argument laced with profanity, I might add.
Hey, some people write music, some people paint with paint. Dana White uses the F word. Just throwing it out there.
He weaves a tapestry of obscenity
that just hangs over Las Vegas.
Still hanging over Las Vegas to this day. All right, do you feel better now?
I do. I'm glad I got that off my chest, and you know, as the sport's growing, we need to know that, you know, this is what an intelligent argument discussion looks like. Right. So now it's been said. No one can ever say, hey, Drew and Albert aren't holding themselves to that standard, which is clearly not the case.
Everybody just needs to chill the F out. That's all there is to it. Just lighten up, chill. Don't be so critical of others, all right? Let's just watch the sport. Let's watch programs like what we do, and, you know, just let it
exactly.
Let it be, as the Beatles once sang.
Live and let die.
Coming up on Cage Nation TV,
the hot topic. We're going to talk about event etiquette, and again, this is the social responsibility issue.
Edition.
Social responsibility episode. We're going to talk about event etiquette. Like, you know, like we've already talked about, these are the 5 worst things you could possibly do to be an MMA fan. Well, now we're going to talk about what you should be like, how you should carry yourself when you're at an event.
All right, coming up, Miss Manners on Cage Nation TV. And right now, there's a couple of guys who They're just a couple of guys. They got a pro wrestling show. Check them out.
Hello, MMA fans.
Look, people.
MMA fans.
And we're wrestling guys on an MMA show.
Holy moly. What's this world coming to? We want to take this time and thank Drew Shannon and Albert Cameron.
We do?
Yeah.
All right,
For
thank you.
allowing us a little bit of their time here on Cage Nation Television. To promote the Pro Wrestling Rundown. Do I have to do all the talking here?
Come on, guys, show us a little bit of love. We're showing you some love. We know that they're a crossover fan, so catch us on our YouTube channel. What is it again, X?
YouTube.com/Pro Wrestling Rundown.
Hope to see you there.
Welcome back to this cathartic edition. Therapeutic for you.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
Why?
I'm on the internet this week, and people are just putting out some really just ignorant stuff. You know, like the free intelligent exchange of ideas just wasn't there this week. And whenever you got a camera and a very good friend who'll film a TV show with you, you really have the benefit of just letting the steam out. And that's what I'm doing this week.
Why must you be such an angry young man? Albert Cameron.
Because I grew up in an area where we breathe coal dust all day.
Gold dust?
Coal dust.
Oh, I thought you were talking about...
Pennsylvania gold.
Oh, I thought you were talking about somebody else. Anyway. The hot topic right now, I don't have to step out for this, do I?
The hot topic is that free exchange of ideas. We've been preaching in all episode that we should have an intelligent conversation, Drew. And I need you for the hot topic.
Speaking of hot topic, I got this shirt at Hot Topic.
He did let us down.
I didn't let you down.
You did let us down. What? That man right there had a very prestigious seat of honor this week at the last UFC fighting, didn't he?
I believe so. He's sitting with Dana White, as a matter of fact.
Wait, you mean someone as thought as profound as CM Punk would be sitting next to Dana White, who clearly sucks based on the opinion of the internet?
CM Punk, the best in the world and the king of grammatical correctness, sitting next to the Monopoly guy. The monocle and mustache, Dana White.
It was great. I liked seeing it. And I think if anyone could get CM Punk into the UFC, it's Uncle Dana.
And who knows? Maybe you'll see him down the road. He is training, so, I mean,
yeah,
who knows?
You never know. Drew, the hot topic for this week is event etiquette. Now, when you go to a fight, chances are you're gonna go to a great establishment like we've been to so many different times. You're probably gonna be able to buy a beer, a hot dog, and you're gonna see some great action because Pennsylvania and I'd say Ohio, Virginia has really great promoters who understand what a great event should look like.
Right.
I mean, every promoter I know we've worked with has been just very class acts. I mean, I'm talking Gladiators of the Cage, WCC, certainly Complete Devastation. I mean, before Jason Davis sold, Jason was always a very class act to everyone he dealt with. And now the new owner, Drew, is a very easy to talk to guy, and I'm sure he's going to do great things as well.
Yeah, those guys over at Nova 6, fantastic guys.
Absolutely. So, that being said, it doesn't stop the knuckleheads from coming in. It doesn't. I mean, there's always going to be that guy who always knows more than the commentators do, because we always run into those guys.
Yeah.
There's always the guy who's had too much to drink pre-gaming.
Yep, and they normally sit down at the commentator's booth while the ring announcer's in the... We won't talk about that, though. Go ahead.
Someone who's pre-gamed. Someone who's just an angry person to begin with.
Right.
There's always those people. And then... Well, I'm sure that we ran down the 5 worst traits. I know I've run into at least all 5 of those every event I've gone to.
Okay.
So, it is what it is, but I think we're going to take an opportunity to say this is what we appreciate when we come to an event. Funny story, I don't know if I've ever told you this or not, and it's kind of going on camera now.
All right.
But at Complete Devastation MMA 2, I was the camera guy climbing on top of the very sturdy and not dangerous at all tree stand to get the foam mark, and Clark Young didn't almost kill me by flinging Adam Smith Urbany into the side of the cage. Oh wait, no, all that stuff did happen.
Yeah, I was to say, by safe, he meant slightly dangerous, and by didn't, he meant hell's yeah.
Yeah.
He did.
I say to my castling, I'm not really comfortable going up there, and castling's like, hunters aren't small people, you'll be fine. Afraid of heights. Scared to death of heights.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm on this tree stand. I'm trying to hold the camera. I'm trying to like perch my knee on there. My leg's falling asleep, and apparently the back of my shirt came up. To which, you know what they said? Did I ever tell you what they said? It was, the 1990s laid this out for this kid to use. He said, "Crack kills." That was super appropriate at the time, let me tell you. Did it stop me from getting awesome camera angles? Absolutely not. Did it stop me from going on with you to the MMA Rundown and bringing people with news and MMA content every week? Absolutely not.
Yeah, because who the hell else was I going to do it with?
I mean, did it stop us from rising from the ashes of the MMA Rundown and producing the Cage Nation that we've got right now? No. So, Bud McLight over there, who thought he was great, and I'm sure he got I'm sure he got some girl to really lower her standards in the backseat of his El Camino. I'm sure that happened for that kid. It was wasted breath, and like that sort of thing. Like, it just really is. I don't think it has a place in an event. It has a place in your grandma's basement where you certainly live. Lighting your joint, listening to Pink Floyd, and watching The Wizard of Oz, and your buddies who train MMA, bro. Like, that there. But I mean, in an MMA event, like, this is. I didn't like it. I mean, mainly because it was directed at me. But I just didn't like it.
I can imagine where an insult would tend to piss someone off. I mean, that's just par for the course.
Right. And the unfortunate thing is I've got a camera and an audience, and he's just got his grandma who has boundary issues. Just throwing that out there.
We love going to the events. We love meeting our fans.
Absolutely.
We love meeting MMA fans, but I do have to say this. There are other fans around you. I mean, be considerate.
Right.
Have a great time, but also be considerate of those around you, because not everybody wants to hear, shouting the F word 15 times in a 5-second diatribe about why your guy is getting his ass kicked.
Oh, right. And there's always that, sixth row commentator too, who's completely bombarding everyone around them with, "Oh, this is what's happening, blah, 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 this is what to do, oh, he sucks." There are commentators there, and they have expert opinions, and if you buy the DVDs, you will hear them. The people around you want to watch the same fight you are. There's no need for the commentary. And that's what good-looking guys like him and I are for. Because, just saying, we've been selected for certain activities because we have a certain set of skills, and that's just how it is. I mean, I don't like going to events and hearing some knucklehead shouting behind me with, like, what should be going on. I mean, I can see the same fight he's watching.
Like, I can see that. If I want to watch the fight with commentary, I'll plunk down the $50 and watch it on pay-per-view.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg are two of the best best commentators. Period. I mean, they're a lot better than I am, and
right.
I don't think I'm that bad. But these guys are the gold standard.
Right.
Joe Rogan is a very intelligent human being who trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He don't train MMA, bro. He trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mike Goldberg has been there since practically the beginning,
right.
Since the UFC came out of the Gracie mind womb thing. He's been there. Mm-hmm. So just to put those guys on blast, and to come up to commentators and say you suck. I mean, that's just irresponsible as well. So we've covered drinking heavily is bad. Screaming commentary in the middle of an event is bad. Just being a hater is bad. And twerking on Robin Thicke during the VMAs is... Wait, no. That's for a different show. I'm sorry. Sorry, my bad. He respects me this much less now. I mean, I don't know if you saw that or not. I deserve that. Okay, anyway. I think that about covers MMA etiquette. I mean, at an event, be a decent human being.
MMA etiquette, not VMA etiquette. All right?
I saw what you did there. That was good.
Yeah.
That was good. So, just be a decent human being. We don't, especially from the crowd, we don't have the same perspective that judges and referees do. So screaming and yelling is not going to change the outcome of a fight, especially with the decision. Greg Serb doesn't care. He employs referees and judges because they are experts. And we need to trust in them. And Serb, I trust. Okay.
All right. Is that going to do it for another episode?
I think we got out what we needed to say this week.
You feel better?
I do. I feel a lot better.
Coming up next week, I think I believe we're going to have a recap of Gladiators of the Cage, Road to Glory 5, if I'm not mistaken. We should have some footage from that, and hopefully some interviews as well. So if we don't have that, we most assuredly will get it to you in somewhat of a timely and prompt manner, as our social lives will allow from time to time. And believe me, we do have them. And
You mean like day jobs and wives and children and
stuff like that.
yeah,
So
stuff that really shouldn't matter but does.
if the episode doesn't get posted right away, never fear, it will be posted. Okay, just throwing that out there.
Speaking of social lives, on social media, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Again, congratulations to Eric, our friend from the neck of the woods I'm from. Actually, I just found that out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he won the Jessica I. Jessica I signs that as a Bellator fighter, and now she's a UFC fighter. How cool is that? So like overnight, that autograph just became so much cooler.
Totally.
Absolutely. So congratulations for that. You can always go on CageNationTV.com for news and thoughts and tidbits. Subscribe to this video.
Down there.
And I know we don't say it enough, but again, thanks to our buddy Jigsaw who produced our theme music. I mean, I think it's awesome every time I hear it. So thanks to Jigsaw and Kenny.
It just gets me pumped every time I hear it. Yeah, Jigsaw and Kenny J, thank you guys so much. And thanks to you guys, the Cage Nation, you guys who watch MMA, whether it is UFC, Bellator, Invicta, XFE, the list goes on and on.
Gladiators of the Cage, WCC, Complete Devastation.
Whether you watch the indie guys, the smaller promotions, or whether you watch the top dogs, you are part of the Cage Nation, and we love each and every single one of you. You're awesome. I'm telling you what. I promised I wouldn't cry. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, next week, Cage Nation TV. For Drew Shannon, I am the elected official, Albert Cameron. This has been Cage Nation TV.
I just want to give everybody a hug. Come here. Bring it in. Bring it in.